You step into an elevator, a completely ordinary gray metal box that you see every single day. And you're in a rush. The doors stay open way too long. Seconds are ticking away. Irritated, you reach for the panel and hit the button with 2 arrows,
pointing at each other. Close door!
A second later, the doors slide shut. You feel a brief wave of relief.
It feels like you've just mastered this complex machine, saved some time, and taken control of the situation. Now, hold on a second. What if your press on that panel meant absolutely nothing to the elevator's computer? What if the button under your finger is a complete placebo, physically incapable of speeding up the doors by even a split second? We live in a world that feels predictable. We truly believe that every action we take triggers an instant response. But reality is much trickier. Every day we press dozens of buttons in the city that aren't actually connected to anything. We stare at displays showing false numbers. It's all done for one single purpose: to protect our minds from stress.
Welcome to the world of systemic placebos, where the greatest deception of all happens right before your eyes.
Let's face it. We're used to thinking that technology obeys our every command. Our everyday logic is simple.
Button exists, function exists. Press it, get results. We assume engineers designed everything around our immediate desires.
We assume creators spent years making sure the cabin responds to our every whim and split-second movement.
After all, it's just a basic relay. Complete the circuit, trigger the motor, and start spinning the cable drum. But that's an illusion. In a modern building, the elevator's automated system completely ignored your press. It wiped the signal out like minor background noise. You might as well have tapped your finger against the metal wall or rubbed the handrail. The doors didn't close because you ordered them to shut at that exact microsecond.
They closed only because a built-in safety timer, preset at the factory, finally ran out of seconds.
Psychologists call this the illusion of control. Our brains are wired to find connections where none exist.
You hit the button. 3 seconds pass. The doors move. Your brain registers, I pressed, it closed. I am in charge. It never occurs to us that the doors would have closed anyway, even if we just stood there with our hands in our pockets.
This trick is so widespread that it is openly confirmed by the top executives of the entire elevator industry.
John Krebs, executive director of the NEII, openly admitted this surprising fact in an interview with journalists. In most cabs built or modernized over the last 30 years, the closed door button for regular passengers is pure decor. It doesn't work. Harvard psychology professor Ellen Langer, who studied this phenomenon, explains the benefits of the lie. These placebo buttons are necessary for our sanity. When trapped in a confined space, our micro-stress levels spike.
We need to feel like active participants, not just passive cargo trapped inside a windowless metal box. The placebo button is a cheap, effective tranquilizer. It doesn't manage the elevator, it manages your anxiety.
But why did engineers do this? Why spend resources to install non-functional controls on the panel?
The decision wasn't just made to soothe our nerves. Behind it lies a strict, non-negotiable safety law.
It stripped hurried city dwellers of the right to slam doors in the faces of lagging passengers with a single click. It all began in 1990, when the U.S. passed a landmark piece of urban legislation. The Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA. It completely redefined public spaces. And elevators found themselves at the absolute center of these new changes. The law strictly mandated that the urban environment must be fully accessible and safe for every single passenger. Before that, elevators were often sites of selfish races. The first one inside could lock out those left behind.
But the new rules set a clear technical standard. From then on, the elevator cab had to wait patiently on the floor.
Under ADA rules, elevator doors must remain wide open long enough for someone with limited mobility to get in safely.
This time is essential to safely board using a wheelchair, crutches, or a walker without being rushed. Generally, this mandatory automatic wait interval is set strictly between 3 and 5 seconds per cycle. The computer calculates this time automatically, based on how far the hall call button is from the elevator shaft. And here is the kicker. even if you step into the cab completely alone and smash that closed door button.
The system will ignore your input. The safety of the public will always override your personal rush.
The lift is legally required to count down its timer to give a slow passenger in the hallway a fair chance. But then why not remove the button entirely? Well, it's not actually a complete fake in the physical sense.
It is wired to the control board, but a regular passenger's privilege to use its primary function is blocked. It has two specialized operating modes, hidden from the public eye and completely inaccessible to daily riders.
The first is emergency mode. When a fire breaks out, rescue teams use a physical key to take manual control.
They switch the lift to manual. At that moment, automation shuts down and the cab obeys direct commands instantly.
The doors will close only when the firefighter presses and holds that exact close door button with their finger. The second is service mode, used by technicians during repairs or hotel staff when transporting heavy loads.
This mode allows them to temporarily lock the elevator cab on a specific floor to make loading easier.
You might wonder, what about elevators elsewhere? American ADA laws don't directly apply in other countries. On older vintage lifts or basic budget models, the closed door button might actually work directly. But in modern smart building systems, priority is always given to internal energy efficiency algorithms. The central computer calculates building traffic, groups riders, and decides exactly when to shut the doors. Your personal opinion, expressed through frantic button mashing, simply doesn't matter to the smart system.
We accept this little lie of a button because it makes our waiting just a bit more tolerable.
But engineers went further. After stripping our control over time, they decided to rewrite our perception of space. Look at the walls of the cab you're riding in right now. They are almost certainly covered in mirrors. And this isn't just a design choice. It's another invisible psychological trap designed for your mind. To understand where the mirrors came from, we need to travel back to the middle of the last century.
After World War II, the world saw a massive construction boom. Skyscrapers shot up across the US and Europe.
Office clerks at residents of new high-rises began moving vertically through cities on a massive scale.
Immediately, city services were flooded with complaints. People were furious and deeply frustrated. The main complaint was always the same. Elevators move painfully slow. The ride up feels like an eternity. Standing in a featureless metal box while it crawled to a high floor drove passengers absolutely crazy.
Engineers were stumped. Making the lifts physically faster at the time was an incredibly difficult engineering task. It required designing entirely new, exceptionally powerful electric motors and heavy-duty power supplies.
They would have had to rewrite building grids and design incredibly complex cabin dampening systems.
And it would cost a fortune. The price of upgrading the fleet was measured in millions of dollars.
So, instead of mechanics, psychologists stepped in. They ran a study and reached a surprising conclusion. It turned out people didn't hate the actual speed of the elevator cab. The physical speed wasn't the issue.
The real problem was simple. During that 1-minute ride, passengers had absolutely nothing to do in the box.
When our brain is trapped in a confined space with zero stimuli, our internal clock starts to glitch.
Time subjectively stretches 2 or 3 times over. Every single silent second feels like an eternity.
You stand shoulder to shoulder with strangers, staring blankly at a dead wall or down at your own feet. Psychologists suggested a brilliant trick. Don't change the physical speed, just shift the rider's focus.
That's how full-length mirrors appeared in the cabs. And this simple addition changed the game completely.
The flood of complaints dried up overnight, even though the elevators didn't speed up by a single inch. The moment they stepped into the cab, passengers automatically began looking at their own reflections, fixing their hair, checking a suit, adjusting a collar, or subtly observing the other passengers.
All of this instantly occupied the brain, and the entire trip suddenly felt like it took just a few seconds. You might think mirrors are there so you can snap a selfie or fix your makeup before an important meeting.
But in reality, it's just a clever interface stealing your attention to save corporations billions.
However, fighting off boredom is only a small fraction of what these mirrors do to our subconscious.
The reflective layer on the wall shields us from a deep, primal horror: the fear of enclosed spaces. From an evolutionary standpoint, the elevator is a bizarre concept. We are locked in a dark, windowless box.
Suspended by steel cables over a deep abyss, our ancient survival brain screams of lethal danger.
It is terrified of tight spaces, knowing there is absolutely no escape path if things go wrong. And at this exact critical moment, the spatial magic of ordinary wall mirrors comes into play. They create a simple yet flawlessly effective optical illusion for our human eyes inside the cab. The reflection visually doubles the cabin's volume. The solid metal walls appear to push backward. Instead of a cramped iron cage, our brain starts perceiving the elevator as a bright, open room.
This simple trick is enough to soothe the subconscious and lower panic levels for claustrophobes.
You no longer feel stuffed inside a dark closet. Visually, you have plenty of breathing room. But psychologists noticed another brilliant side effect of placing mirrors inside these tight spaces. Mirrors turned out to be the absolute best and cheapest way to combat petty urban vandalism. Before, cabs were constantly trashed by vandals, scratching walls, tagging panels, and breaking buttons. But once mirrors went up and reflected their faces, behavior drastically changed for the better. Psychologists call this the self-monitoring effect. We find it extremely uncomfortable to act out when we are forced to watch ourselves scratch walls, spit, or trash public property in real time.
Your own reflection acts as an invisible warden, immediately appealing to your social conscience. And then there's personal safety. Standing in a tight elevator with strangers makes us feel vulnerable.
You can't face everyone at once, meaning someone is always standing directly behind your back.
The mirror solves this completely, offering you a clear, unobstructed 360-degree view of the cabin.
You can see your neighbor's hands, watch your pockets, and catch any suspicious movement instantly. This drastically cuts down on pickpocketing and gives passengers a strong sense of physical safety. It seems like a perfect design. Mirrors prevent claustrophobic panic and protect us from thieves. But if you think this system was built solely to manipulate your daily behavior, you are mistaken.
Behind the glass on the back wall lies a technical necessity, without which some would be trapped.
If you look up modern building codes, like the strict European EN 81 standards, you'll find a surprise. A mirror on the back wall of the elevator cabin is written in as a mandatory safety requirement. And its primary structural purpose has absolutely nothing to do with clever psychological tricks. It is a vital tool for accessibility, essential for passengers who use wheelchairs to get around. Most standard elevators are quite narrow. A wheelchair user enters the cabin facing strictly forward. Turning around 180 degrees is physically impossible, because the cab is just too tight for a turn.
To exit on their designated floor, wheelchair users have to carefully back out of the cabin in reverse.
Try backing out of a tight, moving space without being able to see a single thing behind your back.
It's dangerous. You can hit the frame, run into other passengers, or get caught in the closing doors.
The mirror on the opposite wall works exactly like a rear-view mirror in a standard automobile.
It allows wheelchair users to clearly see all obstacles behind them and safely roll out onto the floor.
This simple, quiet detail opens up public spaces for people we often overlook in our daily rush. In the end, the humble elevator turns out to be a brilliant, living model of our modern society.
Our vertical transit system is entirely woven from compromises, clever tricks, and white lies. We were given a dead close door button just to let us vent our frustration and regain control.
They hung mirrors up to steal our focus and protect us from boredom during a 40-second ride. But the most beautiful thing about all of this systemic deception is that it gently slows us down. The safety timer, ignoring our frantic button mashing, exists so the slowest among us can get in.
The mirror we fix our hair in every morning shields someone else from a claustrophobic panic attack.
And at the exact same time, it helps a wheelchair user safely and peacefully return to the world.
We live in an era of total optimization, constantly trying to speed up shipping, web pages, and life. We get genuinely furious at every single lost second spent waiting in slow traffic or sluggish lines.
But perhaps these slow elevators and their non-working buttons are the best part of our daily routine.
Sometimes the system has to trick us and make us wait 3 seconds just to preserve our humanity.
Just so we stop to remember the existence of other people, moving a bit slower, right beside us. Because this massive world spins for everyone, not just around our selfish everyday rush.